All right, so it's high time I weigh in on this. That is President Obama nominating the next Supreme Court Justice. Now, unless you've been living under a rock or in a cave for the last week, you know that Anthony Scalia, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, died over the weekend. That leaves a vacancy in the Supreme Court. And President Obama, being the president, under the Constitution, gets to pick the next nomination. Now, the Republicans have said, no, come on now. President Obama, why don't you let the next president decide? President Obama says, no, I'm going to nominate someone to the Supreme Court, and you, the Congress and the Senate, should put them through the process and be fair. So, what do I think? Well, I'm kind of with President Obama. I think that he, being the president, should pick the next nomination. That's his constitutional privilege, right, whatever you want to call it. And mostly I don't think it helps the Republicans to wait this long for the next president. I mean, that President Obama has some 336 days left in office. You figure the next president gets in after that, it's going to take them maybe about 2 months to get their nomination through the process and appointed. That means we'll be looking at a 8-member Supreme Court until then, and that will be like basically over a year. And that just seems stupid. One of the problems with that is you look at the current makeup of the Supreme Court. You've got 4 liberal justices: Ginsburg, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Bremer, right? And on the other side, you've got Roberts, Alito, Kennedy, and Thomas. Kind of, well, 3 of them I'd say conservative, or maybe just 2 of them, Alito and Thomas. You remember Roberts was the one who went against the grain on the Obamacare, and Kennedy has basically been seen more as a swing vote than a conservative. Now, let's just say that those 4 do all keep going conservative. The liberals go liberal. You've got all these 4-4 ties. That means that they have to go with the decision that the court before them came up with. Whether that be a state Supreme Court, an appellate court, or the federal court, they'll basically be deciding all of our legal cases until we get a 9-member Supreme Court again. So the Republicans want to hold off on it. They need to look at the state Supreme Courts, the appellate courts, and the federal courts and see what decisions they're making. Maybe they're more liberal than the Supreme Court. I don't know. So there's that, and then, like I said, it would be a year. It'd be a year with the time that Obama has left. It'd take 2 months for the next president to decide that. That seems like a hell of a long time to go with an 8-member Supreme Court where you can have a tie. Not to mention, I think that the Republicans, they're betting too much money on the next president being a Republican. They could lose the election, right? And then look who's going to make that appointee. Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. That seems worse than President Obama deciding one. So they don't have to confirm his nomination, whoever that is. If they think he's a bleeding heart liberal, or she, because President Obama has picked women so far, then, you just reject the nomination. Make them start over. And you keep doing this until you get, basically a moderate. You're not going to get a conservative out of this guy, but you get some milquetoast moderate out of it. And that's what I think the Republicans would do. Let him make his nominations, go through the process, the confirmation hearings, all that, and then reject that nomination if they're too liberal, and make him settle for appointing a moderate.